Welcome. Now, just a quick catch up on the project today. Still really early days with the project at the moment. It's still in a million pieces. There is a million piece things to be done to it, and I've no real set plan going forward other than a very general one in my head, because in reality I'm still in strip and clean mode. Despite all the work I've done so far, I'm still not even getting close to the rebuild part of it, but I am getting closer, and so I just wanted to sort of let people know, in case you wonder why these videos are a bit erratic, and there can be some quite long gaps, not quite as long as the gap over the summer where I was distracted onto bikes, but the project doesn't run to a specific plan at the moment, because I am very much still in strip and clean mode. I'm not yet at the point where I can start rebuilding stuff, and that will probably happen quite late in the project, but because it's all very piecemeal, it's hard to put anything to video, and frankly most of what I'm doing is just time-consuming, tedious work of cleaning, de-rusting, and painting. And it's not really the sort of thing that I want to make any more videos of. I mean, you've seen me do it. What I'm doing is just the same. But it does mean that the videos are quite sporadic, and there can be quite gaps from one to the next. It's not like I'm working on it every week. Well, I am working on it now all the time. But just trying to squeeze in little bits and pieces, and they don't really amount to full videos, because it's just, well, I'll show you a bit. You can see where I'm spraying. I'll show you that in a bit. But what I did want to show in this video is the next step forward. It's still in my mind at the moment, and I've still got a few decisions to make, but I'll take you outside and you can see what I want to do next, because I want to start putting together the major components just in a test fit sort of environment. Now, for me, this is a kit car, but it's a little bit beyond a kit car. A kit car is something where you just go and buy the pieces and you bolt them all together, and then you have a car. That's slightly different from a special. And a special is where you fabricate parts. You might start with a kit, but you actually modify it and fabricate it to fit your vision of what the vehicle should look like, rather than what maybe the kit manufacturer's vision of the vehicle was. Some kits are really provide you with a very basic set of parts, and every vehicle is different as a result. Some really are just, here's a bunch of parts bolted together and off you go. So I'm somewhere in between. This will become more of a special, but I already have in mind another vehicle that might happen after this one. Well, we'll see, where it'll be more unique than this one is. Really much a scratch build. But that will mean I've got to go through all the MVSA and tests and this sort of stuff. It'll be the same basic principle of a three-wheeler, but honestly, this is now 2017. If I can get this on the road in 2017, that will be quite an achievement. So I'm not worrying too much about fantasy plans for another vehicle just yet. Or particularly my vision of this particular build is that it's modular. There are a number of things that I would like to change about it in the longer run. There's a temptation to try and change them now, but that will spectacularly delay the actual build. In my mind, the best thing is to build it and then modify it. But when I'm building it, I want to have in mind that possibility of modifying it. So what I don't want to do is to make it too hard to modify, and that's what what I want to talk about outside is all about. So nice modular build, and that's where I'm going with it. And let's go outside. Right, so this is the body shell, and this is the essential problem. is that it's too long. Well, there's two factors. It's too long and it's too heavy. It took 3 of us to carry this through into the back garden. It would take 3 of us to carry it back again. And even then we damaged it slightly because it's too big and too heavy to fit through the available space, and in particular it's just too long. So the solution is going to be to cut it in half. Well, not that dramatic, but it will be to shorten it. And what I'm thinking is the front end. But my plan at the moment is to cut it along here, along the body line here, because I can do something to disguise this, and then to cut away the bulkhead. I had thought about rebuilding the bulkhead and building a completely new bulkhead, but realistically this one's okay. It's got all the holes in all the right places. So that what I want to do is to free off this whole scuttle panel, so it'll be free all the way down here, all the way across here, and all the way down here. The issue is, what I would have probably wanted to done is to cut away the bottom of the bulkhead, but that causes me a problem, and that is that getting this whole body shell into the shed, it's again would take 2 or 3 people to carry it into the shed, at least 2 people even after I've cut some of the weight off it by taking this front bulkhead out. I then couldn't fit anything else in the shed. Now I know that's going to happen at some point, but probably when the weather is better, maybe, and I can pull the bikes out and leave the bikes out here and have that in there, but then that's going to be in there for weeks and weeks, so I don't want to do that any more than I need to. So, but this bulkhead is where everything attaches to, the steering wheel, all the instrumentation, basically everything I need to do a dry build, except for the fuel, is here in the front end, in the bulkhead. The problem is, if I do cut it there, I've no way of aligning this bulkhead correctly onto the chassis. There's no way of connecting it. The only way of connecting it is through the floor. Now these bolt holes here run down the edge, outer edge of the chassis. That means this piece is completely unsupported. Down here, I've just taken out, there is a bar that supports the steering wheel and such, which has now been removed. The steering wheel bolts partly onto this fiberglass panel here. Well, actually that's a metal panel attached to fiberglass, to be picky. But that scuttle panel there, that bar, is what attaches it to. Now I've also taken the door off that side because the doors are part of my plan. So that scuttle panel that all this stuff attaches to bolts out here, not to here. So if I've freed off this part, there'll be nothing to attach it to. So the only obvious answer is to cut through the floor, probably between these two here. I can then bolt this bulkhead panel to the chassis with these 2 bolts, and then have effectively a working front end to the car. I then need to deal with the fact I've cut the floor in half, and also the fact I'm going to have to cut, like, I can't really see, so my cut line is going to be across here and then down. Now conveniently there are these holes drilled here which are used to connect the front panel that goes off towards the engine. So if I cut along here and then cut along underneath here, this bit will be left sort of flapping in the wind. But if I put a support up the inside here, attach it to the bulkhead, I can then bolt this securely down to there. So that will work. But I then still have the fact that I've got the floor cut in two, and that's going to be messy. But I don't see any real alternative. And what this means is that this is then quite a bit lighter, and fiberglass is really heavy. When it goes out the front, it's going to go without the doors, because I found that even the doors are heavy, because you've got these reinforcing panels, and I'm assuming inside here there are lumps of wood or similar, chipboard, hardboard, I don't know what it is, probably from the weight of it, probably chipboard or something similar. So this door is, you'd think fiberglass, yeah, that's light, but it's not. Just look at the profile on that. That is not a thin piece of fiberglass. This is a dirty piece of fiberglass with reinforcing, and it's the same under here. You can just see it amongst the glare. There's a reinforcing rib across the top here, and there's another reinforcing rib some sort here. So, well, that's where that body line is here. I did have plans for the back as well, but another time. So that's going to be my plan. But unfortunately, what I found when I came to take this out is that this rusted through, and so the first thing I have to do is to actually repair that, then bolt it back in, and then start building a structure that will allow me to connect all the various parts of the bodywork at the front here back together securely, in terms of building some sort of brace up here, and then cross brace it across here, because this panel isn't going to be attached to anything particular, so it's got to be attached to here, and yeah, so I've got to build a structure in there, and for that I'm going to have to buy some steel. Oops, sort of focusing on the wires. So yeah, so I need to get some steel. The upside is that once I've got this off, I can sort of turn it upside down, and I can actually get to the instruments and actually do something properly. So this is what I've been waiting for, is some proper fabrication. But I need to go out and buy, well, order, because I can't go out and buy it, some steel tube and flat stock and all that sort of good stuff, and fixtures and fittings and whatever. But so yeah, fabrication, good stuff. Right, so this is what I was saying earlier about it being early days on the project and just so much to do with it. Here are the bits I took off from inside the car that have been still sitting in the bodywork. So we have steering column, and as you can see, I've roughly cleaned them up, and I'm now painting them. So we put aside gear shift, and this is the scuttle bar. This is the thing I was talking about earlier. This is what this, for example, the steering column here bolts to this bar at the top end of the steering wheel, whereas things like the gear shift, well, actually this is a handbrake, is just attached to the underneath of the parcel shelf sort of area. In fact, I think actually it does connect onto the bottom of this as well. So this is a key to getting this back together so that I can start separating that front bulkhead. But I've got to be able to put this back in so that I can then attach the structure both to the floor of the car and to this, so that I can create something that will work. Now, as an aside, this is quite hard to get it out on its own. If I start welding bits of metal to this. The only way this is coming out is when I cut the bulkhead free and I can actually lift it straight up and out, because there's no way. This is a little bit narrower than the door shut panels, so you can't really get this out. And as I say, except by twisting it around and wiggling it, the moment I start welding extra bits of metal to this, you'll never get it out. I mean, unless I just bolt them to this, which is a possibility, but not really where I want to go. So first though, this is what I was saying earlier. This is how it mounts to the floor at the moment. There are two bolts, I think they're M8s, might be M10s, go down through here, drill through the floor and bolt to. And this one is quite rusty, but I think it's just about savable. But this one, it's rusted off, so I need to make up a new plate, and I need to buy a new, or either weld something up to cut this rusty bit off and weld something to that, but I want to order some tube anyway. So really this part of the project is going to stall a bit because I need to wait for payday, which is another week or so away yet, or more than a week away, before I can put the order in for more steel. So it's going to be back to more digging through the boxes and trying to find parts that I need to, we'll go back to things like the next thing I'm going to be looking for is the oil cooler, so I can clean that up and put it aside. And that's very much where I am in the project. There isn't a lot to show you really, because as I say, it's mostly just cleaning up stuff and putting it aside, cataloguing, adding stuff to the order. As I took this apart, for example, I realised the choke cable was dead, so I need to find a new choke cable, and it's just a constant drain on money at the moment with this, new tools, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, so plan for today is carry on just doing bits and pieces and cleaning up. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys again soon.